Have you ever wondered how to get people motivated, whether their heart, their mind? Maybe you've been stuck in a tough conversation. I remember being at Big Iron and having people come up to me and wanting to talk about GMOs and big bad glyphosate. So today, Michelle is going to help you by illustrating the power of your personal story. She not only wrangles cattle, kids, words, but stubborn farmers from time to time. And she's a lifetime Holstein breeder, an avid Michigan State Spartan living in Indiana on a farm with her city slicker husband. And they've started a wildflower venture. Michelle has raised millions of dollars for FFA and 4-H. She's worked with farmers and ranchers in more than 25 countries, built a business to serve the people of agriculture for more than a quarter century. She has also earned the certified speaking professional designation that only 900 people on the globe hold. She understands food and farming and knows how to connect it on an emotional level, being a communicator through all stories. Her speaking programs and award-winning books such as Science Story Speak, Food Bullying, Food Truths from Farm to Table, and No More Food Fights are available for you to read and think about. We want you to look at the intersection of neuroscience, food production, and nutrition. Please welcome a champion who's passionate of all sizes and shapes of agriculture, Michelle PAYN.
Good morning. How was everybody's drive-in this morning? I would like you to know that I made it out of 10 inches of snow in Indiana yesterday, and that was my greatest accomplishment. Unfortunately, the airlines didn't quite cooperate with me, but we got here, and that's what counts. But I'm really excited to have a fast-paced conversation with you all today, and my intent is not to stand here and lecture at you for 45 minutes, but to truly have a conversation. So you're going to all join me in that? And by the way, if you look away from me, that does not excuse you. I'm probably likely to come up to you with a microphone. Just a little fun tip. Have a chair. Oh, thank you. I don't think that's why I'm here, but I appreciate that. So we're going to talk about celebrating agriculture today and protecting your future. How many people in the room are concerned about your future as livestock producers in the state of North Dakota? It's a bit of a challenge, isn't it? And I know that we're in an economy unlike what we've ever seen before, and there's a lot of challenges, but my understanding is that you have a lot of neighbor concerns. So I'd like you to start this conversation and think about who is influencing farm and food in North Dakota. Who's influencing the conversation around that? So call some names out to me. Mothers? Do they know what you do? No. Okay. Who else? Who's influencing this conversation? Legislators, and they absolutely know what you do, right? Some of them do, fair point. Hopefully they're here. Consumers? Anybody tried to put in a new CAFO lately? Who's influencing your future? Media? EPA? Activist organizations, absolutely. Farmers, we hope so. So, when you take a look at your future, I want you to think about leadership as influence. How is the influence of agriculture in North Dakota? Do you have the power to be able to talk to your neighbors about what you do, why you do it, and why it's important to the community? We absolutely all have the power. I'm just not sure that we always take it. So today we're going to explore some different ways to do that, and we're going to talk about helping people feel good about agriculture. So I'm just curious, in your world, how do you think most North Dakotans feel about livestock agriculture? Ambivalent. Ambivalent at best, and what's at worst? They're opposed to large scale. Not in my backyard, yep. I think this quote sums it up perfectly, that people will forget the perfect soundbite that you are trained to give. They will forget what you do, but they will never forget the way that you make them feel. And I know those of you of the male nature particularly like to talk about feelings a lot, right? Newsflash, folks, it's a best business practice to connect on feelings. If you want people who are outside of our business, the 98.5% of the population, to understand what we do, we have to connect on an emotional level. And the reality is that we have people who are scared of food. They don't feel good when they go to the grocery store. And you wonder why. Take a look at this video, and I think that you'll appreciate some of the concerns.
Marty, terrible news. There's nothing special about the milk I'm putting on the market. It's slightly translucent white liquid like all the rest, but this is a disaster for sales. Marty, are you listening? My milk, Marty.
George, calm down. Your milk is GMO-free.
But all milk is GMO-free.
You know it, and I know it, but no one else does. So here's the plan. We're gonna put a label on it. GMO-free.
But GMOs are totally safe.
George, so simple, so naive. Come, let me take you to a magical place.
Where are we?
The grocery store, the most confusing place in the world. It's where I come to relax.
GMO-free? None of these other milks say that.
Me, I'd rather drink milk that's GMO-free than milk that's not GMO-free.
Okay.
You have a great day.
I can't believe that worked.
Hey, if consumers didn't want us to bend the truth about what's in their food, then they should have,
Shoulda what?
come with me.
No. Let's get these. They say all natural. That means they're healthy.
They're potato chips. They can't be healthy.
Well, read the label. We're not supposed to lie.
Technically, it's not lying. Potatoes are healthy. Naturally. You simply bombard the consumer with meaningless claims.
Until they're too confused and frustrated to make an informed decision.
And then...
Ooh. Profit!
Contains only the really real good stuff. What does that even mean?
This is too confusing, okay? I give up.
But I'm hungry.
Hey, want a cookie? They're the new superfood.
Yummy!
So how does that make you feel about how your food's being marketed? Do we have any dairy people in the room? I'm diehard dairy, and I don't particularly enjoy having my product misrepresented. How about the rest of you? So when people go to the grocery store, how does this translate to what your next door neighbors think? There's 40,000 products in the average American grocery store. 40,000. You figure 5 claims, factual or not, that's 200,000 claims for them to sort through. So when they come out of there confused, they come out of there guilty, they come out of there fearing their food, that translates exactly into farmers are bad people. Farmers are poisoning the land. Farmers are abusing animals, right? And that's the aftermath that we have to deal with. So the challenge that we have today is that food has become confusing, misinformation and disinformation is growing, and the activists continue to bully. How many of you have personally experienced some of the activists affecting your business? How's it feel? What's that? Personal. Yeah, absolutely. So really the reason why I'm here today to talk about celebrating agriculture is to help you look down the road to protect your future. Because if you can have a conversation with your neighbor today, with your county commissioners tomorrow, that avoids problems in 5 years, then that's a win for all of us, isn't it? And so the challenge that we have is to look at doing business a little bit differently. But I do want to point out to you before we go too much further that we are all susceptible to this food bullying. We're all susceptible to the misinformation, disinformation. How many of you have heard the claims, chemicals are bad? You shouldn't eat what you can't pronounce. You shouldn't cook what your grandma didn't cook. So you look at this product. Can you read the ingredient list on here? I'm not smart enough to be able to pronounce all of these, but the first ingredient is aqua. There is glutamic acid, aspartic acid, valine, arginine, leucine, lysine, serine. You get the idea. It's a food that we eat every day. What is it? Any guesses? Beef? Nope. But good guess because of the amino acids. Milk? Nope. Cheese? No. Potatoes? No, but that sounds really good right now. 75% water, yes. Any other thoughts? So you see the list of chemicals and you freak out, but the reality is that all food has chemicals in it. So I think that we have to remember that we all are susceptible to this fear and that consumers aren't stupid. Food is a deeply personal choice that they have to make, even when they don't understand what we're doing on the other side of the plate. So chemicals, are they good or bad? Both. Okay, so talk to me. Why do you use chemicals? Produce a better product for who? You and your profit? For everybody. Okay, so I'm Susie Q, consumer. I shop at Whole Foods. What's the yuppiest city you have in North Dakota? We're in it? Okay. Is there a Whole Foods? I thought I should ask that before I made that assumption. So I'm Susie Q, consumer. I shop at Whole Foods. Chemicals are bad. You farmers are poisoning the land. What's your response? No, we're not. No, we're not. We're defensive, right? Are chemicals good or bad? It depends on what? How they're used. Okay, so how are you using them? According to label, as a consumer, I have no idea what you're talking about. We're only putting on what we need to control what we need to control. So you're pouring glyphosate and causing cancer. We're using it to kill the weeds, not the plants. Okay, how many of you are very uncomfortable with this chemical conversation? Right, this is why I'm here, folks. We need to be able to have conversations about why we use chemicals and talk about it proudly. There is a reason why we use chemicals. Where food grows, bugs go. Bugs include insects, weeds, molds, all sorts of goodies, right? Chemicals are required for life, but chemophobia is more contagious than COVID. And boy, have we caught it bad, haven't we? So if you're going to talk about sustainability, regenerative agriculture, conventional farming, this is a conversation we need to have, folks. And we need to help people understand that chemicals are required for life and they're naturally in food and why we use it. So I'll let you off the hook a little bit on that one. So now we are going to move into something that potentially may blow your mind. AI. How many of you are certified in AI? I am. I hardly ever use it. Well, we're not talking about the kind that most of us would prefer today. We're going to talk about the kind that nobody in this room really wants to talk about. So, show of hands, how many of you hate artificial intelligence and all the regenerative AI stuff? Put your hands up in the air, loud and proud. How many of you can't stand it, want it to go away, and wish it would just leave? That's impressive. Usually most rooms have the hands up. So I want to illustrate to you how you can actually use tools like Perplexity and ChatGPT and others to see what consumers are thinking about what you do. It is an amazing tool to be able to forecast some of the trends that we have to deal with and to be able to aggregate information. So what I did is I put in the prompt, that's the gray box in the top of the screen, and I told it that I was a beef farmer in North Dakota. I work really hard so that my AI does not know what I do. So when I go different places in the country and the world, I act as though I'm a farmer in that particular country or state. And so I told it that I wanted to understand the specific concerns people have about our environmental impact, because I was told that is a huge concern up here. Can you give me the top 5 problems people see with livestock and the environment? So Beef people, this is not a news flash to you, nor is it to dairy people. Greenhouse gases and the climate. Land use and deforestation came in as number 2. Water pollution and manure was 3rd, which honestly surprised me a little bit that it wasn't higher. Water use and biodiversity and land degradation. And then I know this will make every beef person in the room happy. This is a comparison of beef systems versus plant protein on those 5 issues. I want you to all note the sources. What do you see in those gray boxes? There is not a single agriculture source on here. In fact, it's quite the opposite. My jaw dropped. This is as bad as I've seen it, because these are obviously all animal rights organizations. You want to know why agriculture needs to be involved in AI and telling our story and sharing factual information, why we have to have universities and extension and farmers out there? Right here's your answer, folks. How many of you have picked up your phone recently, searched for something, and all the AI results are at the top? Everybody. We can't avoid this, folks. So I understand you may not want to deal with AI, but our future will be formed directly on how people's opinions are shaped from the misinformation and disinformation that are being propagated by activists like this list up here. Okay? Any questions about this before we go on? And by the way, I'm taking questions throughout, not at the end, so throw them at me as they come up. So next up, I looked at hog farmers, because I knew that they were as concerned as well. So manure volume in lagoons, and I want you to know where all of these sources came from. So what I did was I clicked on this, and you can see this actually came out of North Carolina. Water pollution and fish kills, see where that came from? North Carolina. Odor, air quality, and health, North Carolina. Greenhouse gases and biogas also came out of North Carolina. And then environmental justice and siting. So how many hog people do we have in the room? Is this your reality? It's what, yes, so this is your experiences, right? And I'm sure you have seen the ramifications of what have happened in North Carolina. I happen to know some of the people at the forefront of that. It's been awful, and the lies that are told, and these sources are not valid sources. Does that bother you? This is where your opinions are being shaped. This is where your neighbors are going for information, folks. I did not see a single source from North Dakota in there. And it's really interesting because if you looked, a lot of the sources were actually from blogs, which is an interesting lack of credibility too. So I asked it, let me go back here. I asked it, and sorry, this is the problem, I'm having too many prompts. There we go. Well, it's not working. I basically asked it what the sources were and what you should do as a particular farmer. And it gave different ideas. Let me go back out, and you get to go live to. So what I asked it is, if you were a livestock farmer, how would you get accurate information to North Dakota? You can see I'm in Perplexity. If you've never used AI, I would strongly suggest that you use Perplexity. It is very intuitive. It's very easy to use. It's owned by Apple. And it's not showing up there, so never mind. We're not going to illustrate that one. But I asked it about what you needed to do, and it came back with being transparent, sharing your story, and telling your neighbors what you do. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Any questions about AI before we move on? Yes, sir.
How does it get the sources? How do you get to the point where...
Yes, so if... Yeah, no, I get it, and that's a valid point. If my computer had worked, I would have been able to show it to you, but technology fails, right? There's some irony in that. So I have tried to research where AI is getting its information, and I actually have brought in some experts that are working on my website to try to get some of the accurate information out about agriculture. And what I have been told is this: the AI companies refuse to disclose where they're getting their information. They refuse to disclose the exact algorithms. When I've talked to tech people about this, what they have said is that verified, credible sources, including the National Library of Congress, Extension, universities, It brought up NRCS several times, which I thought was really interesting. And then I've also been told that authenticity, finding the actual story from farmers matters. I have seen YouTube videos cited from farmers. I have seen blogs cited from farmers. Not often, but they do pull in sometimes. So what it basically does, for lack of from a herd standpoint, you go out there and you look at your herd, and you pick out the few sick cattle, and you put the sick cattle in the pen. That's what AI does, is it pulls the information and it sources it from those specific sick cattle, so to speak. Does that make sense?
So kind of like, on example, I looked at Turo rental VRBO cars.
Yes.
Never looked at that before. Looked at it on one computer, and within the next day, you get on my phone, I get little.
Oh, yes.
So now, me being in production agriculture, when I look something up, it kind of knows my history of what I'm
Yes.
doing. Take the next person, take Chris over here that hates pigs, and he looks it up. Do we get the same answer?
No.
And that's
So, well, of course, as does social, right? So there's a couple different things at play here. Did you all hear his question? Okay, I'm going to bring the microphone over to you so that you can repeat it succinctly. Basically, it's a comparison of AI and social and technology. Oh, where did that come from? That's miraculous. You just carry a microphone in your pocket. Good job. Even though you hate pigs, you have a microphone. I know. I'm teasing.
No, my question is basically on, I like it, production agriculture, livestock, and the whole thing, and my neighbor doesn't. We get we look at the same thing on our computers sitting side by side, separate computers. He gets one that feeds him the information he wants to hear. I get the one that wants feeds me what I want to eat, I guess.
Yeah.
How do you
it's the
combat
algorithm. So there's two things at play here. The algorithm in social media. How many of you have talked about, I'm going to use shoe shopping. You can use Turo, whatever. Ladies, you can appreciate this with me. So you go shoe shopping, and all of a sudden it's on your iPad, it's on your Facebook, it's across everything. It's on Instagram, it's on your laptop, it's on your phone, right? Same deal with Turo and you, correct? So that is a whole cloud computing algorithm social feature, because if you are not aware, there is a feature on your phone that has a microphone that you can turn off. I keep mine off, and it still happens sometimes, not all the time. So on your phone, and I don't know anything about Droids, I am an Apple girl completely. If on an iPhone, you can turn off your microphone for different apps. And if you're bothered by their intrusiveness, turn it off. AI is somewhat like that. How many of you would consider yourselves an advanced AI user? Anyone? So you've used it. So you see the influence. I can't speak to that well because I actually use about 5 different tools, and I go in and I clean the cache to make sure they don't know who I am. Right, so that's the point of AI. If you're a business person, you should train it. If you really want to be hardcore AI, you should train it to know who your business is, what your priorities are, what you're trying to do, because it will do amazing things. I had it write a real estate contract in 5 seconds the other day. I have never written a real estate contract in my life. I was completely blown away. So that's the way you should do it, but from a consumer perspective, honestly, it really doesn't matter. Because I'm fairly confident the results I'm getting are what an average consumer would get. I've had my husband run some of the prompts. He gets the same types of responses. Not exactly, and he's in IT, so he has nothing to do with farming, right? Besides, he did unfreeze a water yesterday, I would like to point out. I was very proud of him for that. Yes, ma'am. I'm trying to get over there.
I would say I'm not an advanced AI user, but I'm a medium AI user. And when I look at it and when I'm looking at it to find information, it's a lot like when the internet first came out. Yes. And I worked in extension, and I thought, if anybody learns how to Google, I'll be out of a job. But the problem is it's what the websites are returning to them and the information they're asking for. And it's the same thing with AI. You have to be specific with your prompts, and you can ask for university-based, peer-reviewed. You can ask for that type of information to train it to get the information back. So it's kind of the same, but it's like the internet it's like a search engine on steroids to get your information. But you have to be smart about how you ask for that information.
100%, but I would also say that most consumers probably aren't, because while we all would like peer-reviewed, credible information, if I'm a mom and I hear there's a hog operation coming in a mile from where I raise my babies, I don't think I care about credible information. I want to know what's going wrong with hog farms, and what am I going to find if I search, hey, my neighbor wants to build a new CAFO for pigs in North Dakota. What should I be concerned about? They don't care about peer-reviewed information. They care about protecting their kids. So my strong suggestion is, in that situation, it's your responsibility to get out there and talk to your neighbors, whether you like them or not, or agree with them or not, to have a conversation about why you do what you do. Does that make sense? So this is future. I think that quote up there sums it up amazingly well. And we're going to talk about this today, that leadership is the human art of making knowledge matter. So when you think about making agriculture matter in the future, we're going to talk about celebrating the people, celebrating the promise, and celebrating the passion. The reality is we all have so much knowledge flying at us, do we not? Information overload. And so stepping back and thinking about how we can more effectively tell the story of agriculture really does matter today. And that starts with the people of agriculture. How many of you think that this picture speaks a million words? I've never shown a beef steer. Well, that's not true. I've shown 2 beef steers. It was not a positive experience. I'll just leave it at that. But if you've shown cattle, you look at that. The steer is zip-tied to the kid's wheelchair. And what do you see in the look in the kid's eye? Steer, you move, I will kill you. And likewise, what do you see in the steer's eye? Loyalty, right? I mean, clearly this is a special situation. This is the People's Choice winner from a few years ago at the Iowa State Fair. Incredible story of resiliency and perseverance without ever saying a word. Incredible story of showing farm kid values. But there's a lot of different ways. There's tours through dairy farms like you all have done here. There's tours through all sorts of farms. It's also about showing the families of agriculture. How many of you think that we work in the very best business in the world? Do you talk about that outside of agriculture? Because I sure hope you do. I have never known anything but agriculture in my career, and I had the incredible opportunity to see farmers all over the world. And at the end of the day, a farmer is a farmer is a farmer. And we have to be more equipped, regardless of whether you're an agribusiness or you work for a commodity group or you actually farm, to tell our story about the people. And then you all like to dress up in animal costumes up here, I hear? Is this a way to stay warm? No, I love seeing you have a little bit of fun on this, and my understanding is that it went over big time at the conference it was at. But this is the backdrop of why we have to celebrate and share all of those stories through AI and in personal conversations. Because at the end of the day, one of the core components of sustainability is the people. Is it not? So how do you in North Dakota talk about sustainability? Everybody's avoiding looking at me again. I'm Susie Q. Consumer. How do you explain sustainability on a farm to me?
We probably tend to focus more on soil health and reducing soil erosion when we talk about sustainability, not the broader context of soccer mom.
Okay, well, here's soccer mom. Lucky you. North Dakota Agri Women? Yeah, there you go.
North Dakota Agri Women will show up at county fairs or in grocery stores and actually stop shoppers and answer their questions for them in order to help avoid some of those myths that
Yeah,
happen.
Common Ground is awesome.
Yeah,
it's
Common
a great
Ground.
program.
There's another organization.
Yeah. So I understand that you want to talk about soil health. I understand that soil is indeed a farm's greatest asset. I will do anything I can to protect my soil on my farm. I get it. Does that resonate with consumers? So let's talk about sustainability, shall we? How many of you have had to deal with environmental impact questions from your neighbors, from legislators, from media? All right, so what'd you say?
Like it is. I mean, on the ground, we had nothing to hide.
Okay, so help me out. I have never been on a farm. What does sustainability mean to you?
I know to the consumer, it has a lot to do with the air, soil, and water, and that also is important to me. But on a broader spectrum, it also means it needs to be economically sustainable. We have to be able to remain in business and do it cost effectively.
So when you talk about sustainability, how many of you really want to lead with dollars and that you have to be able to stay? Especially this year. Hello? Right? I get it, but that's not where consumers' minds are. Unless you're the 1.5% of the population that's on a farm or a ranch, they don't care about your profitability. You're raising your family there. It's about celebrating the people, those very pictures that we shared. So being sustainable, does it allow your family to stay on the farm to take care of the land further?
Yes, because long term, the next generation has to drink that water, live off that soil, but you also have to take into accountability the economic sustainability side of it. You got to be able to pay the bills at the end of the day.
How's that working this year? Sorry, just had to ask the question. We might as well laugh about it, right? Yes, I agree, and I understand that we all want to talk about being able to protect our businesses and stay in businesses economically. I fully understand that, but I'm here to deliver to you that no AI search engine or personal conversation with a non-farm person should ever be led with economics, unless you're talking to an economist, okay? Because they want to hear about the people. They want to hear about the land. They want to hear about the water. They want to hear how your manure is not going to poison their land, or their water. Let's talk regenerative next. How big is regenerative in North Dakota? Not an issue? Somewhat discussed. Let me just put it this way. Is regenerative and sustainability different? Or the same? About the same? Closely related, okay. So we won't spend a whole bunch of time on that, but I do want to talk about soil because this has been one of the issues that I think is going to be coming up increasingly more and more in the year ahead. What does soil mean to you, and why does that matter to the rest of North Dakota? So talk to me what soil means to you. Food, life, everything. Who said everything? All right. Why? If you don't have soil, you can't grow crops, you can't grow livestock, you can't grow food for people. Everything either directly or indirectly. So how dare you pour chemicals on that precious soil? No, not right. That's what consumers think. So how do you share a story that helps them understand that not to be true? You have to know your story and know the reasons. So sorry to get into your personal space. Do you have kids yet? Oh, congratulations, how exciting, yay! So perfect example. So that child's gonna grow up on a chemical-ridden farm. I'm so sorry, I know I don't believe this. Right? No, don't say right. So why do you farm? It's how I make a living and I love it. And do you hope that baby wants to be a part of this lifestyle too? And do you believe that a farm is the very best place in the world to raise baby? And that you will do everything in your power to protect baby by taking care of your soil? Are you getting the hints here? Folks, we so often want, especially around soil in my opinion, and sustainability, we so often want to go at it from an agronomy angle. People want the human angle. People outside of agriculture need the human angle. They need to hear the stories. They need to hear what you're doing to protect the soil, to protect the baby, so forth and so on. Okay? And I know it feels weird to talk that way to people, but having these conversations isn't as complicated as we have a tendency to make it be. So many times it's truly about being able to tell your own story and doing it in a way that is meaningful to others. How many of you think that you have a great story to tell? And what about the rest of you? How many of you think you maybe have an okay story, but you really don't want to deal with this? Let's be honest here. If we're honest, we would rather deal with our land and animals than we would with stupid people, right? Best business practice in 2026, folks, is getting out ahead of these issues. And we have many, many issues in livestock agriculture, do we not? So I want to share with you, when we think about celebrating the promise of agriculture, I'm going to share my own personal story, not because I happen to think it's the very best story, but it's the only one that I have, and it's an example that I can share with you. So I was raised in southern Michigan, sandy loam soil, learned perseverance by picking stones, time management with about 35 4-H projects, milk cows 365 days a year, 7 days a week. Never had a vacation until after I graduated from college. You all know how it goes, right? This is my first heifer, Bambi, that I bought for $600 when I was 9 years old. Isn't she cute? You're supposed to tell me she's really cute. If you're a dairy person or you bred dairy cattle, she was an astronaut, which means that she was the most stubborn animal on the face of the earth. So I quickly had muscles and a lot of resilience to boot. I also learned entrepreneurship on that farm. I spent $7,000 on a heifer when I was 12 years old. Farm Credit gave me the loan, and I have absolutely no idea why, but she turned around and paid my way through college, so I guess it worked out. And growing up on that farm gave me every life lesson that I use today. Wearing a certain blue and gold corduroy jacket gave me a voice. I went from a freshman who cried when I stood up in front of a classroom to competing on the stage of the Michigan FFA convention. I happen to believe that agriculture is the very best place in the world to raise kids, and I also have found some of my toughest lessons on that same farm. I went to Michigan State University, the land grant, the Pioneer Land Grant University. You all can argue with me or boo me or any of that. And while I was there, I actually saw an animal rights organization try to burn down our animal science building. And I kind of wondered what was going on. And then a couple years later, I left for California to start my career, and another activist organization tried to blow up our agriculture hall. And I really wondered what was happening, and I knew the face of agriculture was changing. And while I was out in California, I had the great experience of being able to work in international dairy genetics. That's a fancy way of saying that I sold semen and embryos around the world. I want you to imagine the airline conversations with 24-year-old Michelle. They were a lot of fun. Usually there was a guy sitting next to me as I flew around, and he'd say, "What do you do?" And I usually would say, "Well, I work in international dairy genetics." Once in a while, I just say I sold semen, just to watch. But even when I said I work in international dairy genetics, I eventually had to admit the fact that I was selling sperm, right? And it usually took about 7.5 seconds, and the guy next to me would go, so how do they get it? At which point, I would describe electroejaculation in great detail. I'm joking, I never did that, but I really, really wanted to. But the fact is people are curious about what we do, and it is certainly an interesting experience to be able to share some of the stories that we consider to be normal, and they're not normal to the rest of the world. I came back to the Midwest and worked for the National FFA Foundation to give back to an organization that gave so much to me, and I was excited because I was going to go home to my family's dairy farm and take over management and realize my dream. And then I received one of the very worst phone calls of my life. And that was the call where my parents told me that not only had they decided to sell all of our beloved cows, but they were losing our entire farm to bankruptcy. And I'm here to tell you, if you've never walked in those shoes, you have no idea how it feels because you literally want to lay down and die with your dreams. That's why we have a mental health problem in agriculture today, folks. We need to help people realize that there is a greater purpose beyond farming. And as I went through that experience, what I thought I was supposed to learn was to stand up and speak out for farmers, to help farmers stand up and have these conversations. And then I received a very important lesson, and that was the day they laid a beautiful baby girl in my arms, and I knew that I would move heaven and earth to be sure that agriculture was here for her tomorrow. And I can tell you, after raising a very feisty, very temperamental, very stubborn, strong, independent farm girl, when I look at this picture, it still tells me why all of the work, the heartache, and the headaches were worth it. What do you see on her face? Smile, pride, joy, right? What parent, aunt, uncle, grandparent doesn't want to do this for a kid? So the backstory to this picture is it was taken about 3 seconds after she was named junior champion, her heifer, rather, was named junior champion at our county fair, which is pretty competitive, with her very first homebred heifer. To take this back a generation, the first heifer she bought when she was 9 was butt ugly. And I mean beyond ugly. And so this heifer came out of that heifer from some really good breeding, and she ended up being junior champion. And when I think about the lessons, it's not about the purple ribbon, it's about the pride and joy. And it's also about understanding that she came from a business that she needs to tell the story of. She's never known life without a mother that does this. So, of course, she had zero interest in being an advocate. She went to the University of Georgia and ran for them. She quickly discovered that all of her track and cross-country teammates had not a clue what farm life was about. And she found herself answering questions about why there is no need for non-GMO milk, antibiotics, how we care for our animals. And as you can see, she has a great love affair with beautiful black and white cows. I was a little disappointed, I will admit, and embarrassed to say that she was trying to decide her career a couple years ago. She's graduating college this year, and she was going to go into large animal veterinary medicine or become a medical doctor. Guess what she chose? Medical doctor, but she's going into rural medicine to be a surgeon. Isn't that cool? And when I think about my why in agriculture and I think about my legacy, this is where I go, not just my daughter, but all of the kids that I've worked with and being able to provide that legacy. And I want you all to think about, especially this year, when things get tough, when you're feeling really down, what's your why? For some people, it's your church. For some people, it's your family. For some people, it's your community, whatever it may be. But to tell your story of your why and to be able to share that in a way that is meaningful to evoke emotions with the rest of the world. So next is celebrating the passion. How many of you think that people are deeply passionate about their food? How many of you think that people are deeply uninformed about their food? And how many of you are deeply passionate about how uninformed people are about their food? All right, so here's the deal, folks. If you really want to connect with people that are different than you, it's about their passion, not yours. It's about what excites them, not what excites you. It's about being able to relate to them on their terms. And so the way that I have found, after 25 years of doing this, is that if you can relate to their hot buttons, something that really excites them, it's not necessarily related to farming or ranching. It's related to being a human. So how many moms do we have in here? All right, so ladies, how many kids? 2? 6? Dang, girl. How many girls do you have? One? Oh, bless you. You were smart, weren't you? Right. So being able to talk about raising daughters is a very interesting subject that I'm sure we could go on hours about, right? We immediately have a connection, do we not? And so it's being able to relate on points of passion, something that excites people. When you talk to consumers, how do you find out what their hot button is? Questions? And what? Do you walk up to them and say, hey, honey, what's your hot button? I would not suggest you do that. You ask questions, you pay attention, right? And then you employ this very important technique. Let me get to the front so everybody can see this. It's very highly technical. Y'all see that? You bite your tongue, folks. You bite your tongues when somebody comes at you and they tell you something they don't like about farming today. Give me a claim that you have heard a neighbor, legislator, consumer say in this state. You're rich. You're rich? Well, aren't you? Don't you get subsidies and handouts? Not everybody. And here's the deal, folks. Do we have a tendency to take things a little personal? We absolutely do. And many times people don't know what they don't know. They are asking a question because they're concerned about the price of their food, the safety of their food, the quality of their neighborhood, and they have different hot buttons than you. So, GMOs. How many of you have had a conversation about bioengineered foods? And how'd it go? You get a little aggressive. Did you punch him? No. Okay, so who'd you explain it to?
So I work at the fairgrounds, and that's one of the hot button items when we have families come in. They ask about county fairgrounds.
Your county fairgrounds has people concerned about GMOs?
In our ag center, so we have them.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, it's constant. It's one of those things. So
tell us what you do.
I kind of break down, the scenario, or we have staff that do that. But we have all these posters and stuff explaining what GMOs are, and then you have the mothers are the ones that ask the questions, not the kids, not the fathers.
Those mothers. They're the evil of all food, aren't they? All right, so when you and your staff start talking with the mothers and with others, where do you start?
Well, where do I start? We usually just have the basic information on there, but now we have like immersive reality room we take them into, and there's this nice little video that explains it pretty well as well.
What county is this?
This county.
Oh, very cool. Kudos on having that. Do you start with questions about why are you asking this? What makes you feel that way?
Not typically. During the fair, it's a little more rushed.
Yeah. Fair point.
If there's nobody else in there, they'll sit there and talk about it.
Yeah. All right, are GMOs right or wrong?
Yes.
We have a lot of starving people? We would.
That's actually pretty much predominantly what we talk about is you wouldn't have enough food to feed the population.
And the reality is that the vast majority of Americans do not care about starving people. Studies have shown it. I didn't believe it, but that's one of the challenges that we have. So how many of you plant GMOs? Why? Increase production. So you want to get richer and get more handouts? No, that is not what you should be saying, sir. Less chemicals. Who said it? Okay, so less chemicals. Talk to me. I'm Susie Q, consumer. You don't have to spray pesticides. Why does that matter to me? Okay, so if you're concerned about pesticides, you don't have to use them as much. This is a very complicated, very political discussion that gets a lot of angst. The good news is that in the last 10 years, I have seen positive movement made on GMO acceptance, both in the U.S. and in Europe. Yes, sir.
When these people come around about GMOs, first thing they should start is which GMO
He says the first thing they should tell you is which GMO am I concerned? Yes, but there's a lot to be said about that. I think that we have a tendency to make this conversation more complicated than it needs to be. So one of the groups that I work with are dietitians. And dietitians, when I speak to them, generally just like what I have to say about this graphic that's up there. I truly believe that genes are the coolest ingredient on your plate. I know as a dairy breeder, I can do amazing things with genes. I have seen what genes can do in plants. It is fascinating what we can do. Genes freak people out. 66% of the American population believes that their food should be labeled if it has DNA in it. Did y'all catch that? More than 2/3 think that their food should be labeled if it has DNA in it. And we want to describe CRISPR, bioengineering, GMOs, in a highly technical way about what it means to us. We have to relate to their hot buttons. So this is the best example that I have, and then we'll move on. When I work with dietitians, usually half of the audience lines up to tell me why I'm wrong about GMOs. And this is exactly what I say to them. Do you have anyone in your life who is diabetic? Most of us do. My daughter's godfather happens to be severely diabetic. He'd be blind today if it were not for GMOs. Because you see, the insulin that is used today is derived from genetically modified bacteria. And in the dietitian's head, you see the question mark. Did I ever mention farming? Did I mention science? You see, people just want to be reassured that what we're doing has a reason to help them. And so when you think about celebrating the passion, we can do it a lot of different ways. And some of that is through sports, like we talked about. Sparty on forever is what I have to say. Some of that is through getting on social media and doing some different posts. Some of it is helping people understand the intense regulations and the practices that we have in place to protect them and to be good stewards of the land. Some of it's hobbies. I mean, how many of you like to hunt in here? Ice fish? I just saw a picture of an ice fishing hut that blew my mind. I had no idea you could make them be that fancy. And when you look at the opportunity to connect, sports is obviously a big one. Depending on the audience that you're talking to, science can also be a big one. But the point is to be able to connect on their points of passions, not just ours. So I'm going to sum it up with a couple of different fun things. Number one is, how many of you have complained about how stupid consumers are? Come on, put your hands up. I know you're lying to me. If you have complained, your voice has to be a part of the story, folks. Because leadership is influence. Leadership is about making knowledge matter, and you are the absolute best person to do it. And if you can't do it for yourself, then can you please do it for people like Diane, who is a formerly homeless mother? She specifically said a couple of years ago to me on Twitter/X, in the absence of sharing their stories, real people are being harmed as the cost of our food is manipulated by special interest groups. That was specifically to farmers. Formerly homeless woman in Massachusetts is asking you to speak out to help protect food prices. We live in a very contentious society today, and it's time for us to have a more positive conversation. And if you're like me, you believe deeply that ice cream should be a food group. Anybody join me in this? Absolutely. And I don't care if it's -12 out, by the way, or not. I still eat ice cream. I really think that when we help people think through how food is produced, that we need to be able to help them enjoy food again, just like this little girl.
Ice cream for her birthday party. Legally, let go. Let go. Let go. You gotta help me, Brittany.
Isn't that awesome? So my hope is that at the end of all of this that we can smile a little bit more, enjoy some good times around food, and I will leave you with this sentiment. If you want 1 year of prosperity, you can grow grain. Well, maybe before bean prices and so forth. But if you want a decade of prosperity, you can grow trees. apples, peaches, cherries, depending where you're at. But if you want a lifetime of prosperity, it's about growing people. Folks, we are in a people business. Whether we prefer dealing with animals or not, we are in a people business. And my hope is that this is giving you some ideas to be able to celebrate our business and be able to help more people understand the power of livestock in North Dakota. So it has been my honor to be with you today. May God bless you in all you do. I'll be hanging out the rest of the day. Glad to talk more with you. And with that, I will turn it back over. Thank you.